welcome back to Infinite Prattle, Series 6, Episode 2. Got lots to talk about today. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, to be honest. Many topics in mind. Not really prepared, as normal. But let's see what happens. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to
Infinite Prattle!
Unscripted, unedited prattle on everything. Hosted by me, Stephen. Listen, like, share and subscribe and enjoy the show.
Hi, thanks for joining us again on Infinite Prattle. Successful first episode, I feel. First time videoing it with two cameras, so you got you here and you here. Managed to actually edit that together and record it and put it out there in the same day. So I'm feeling quite proud of myself. There's not many times I say that in my life, but I feel quite proud. And I've also rectified the problem with not knowing when I started recording and how long I've been talking for, because I got so used to using my Mixcast that it just told me because it was in front of me and I didn't have to concentrate on looking at things. But yeah, so down here, right down here, which you can't see, I have a little kitchen timer, so I can see how long I've been prattling for. So how long to keep you entertained for, I suppose is the word. So yeah, I was just thinking before I started recording, because I have loads of ideas going on in my head and I rarely write anything down. And when I do, I forget to look at it before I start recording, to be honest. So really, either way, it doesn't really help me because I'm terribly disorganized. I'm like the most organized, disorganized person, which I don't know if that's a thing with you, whether you can be super, super organized and then absolutely chaotic at other times. Apparently, it's a sign of creativity and genius, apparently. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to say that I'm a creative genius, as obviously my podcast can attest. Yeah, so me and Sarah have been out today. We always have really good talks. It's one of the things I love about Sarah is the fact that not just because I love her and she's fit, she's my wife and I find her very attractive. In the UK, we say the word fit as in it's a sexy term. It's a very, very kid thing to say, really, like a very young person thing to say. When you're a kid at school, you say, "Oh, that girl's fit," and I like to refer to Sarah as that because she makes me feel young. She makes me feel youthful, and I think she's fit. She's sexy, and I know our brother listens to this, so I'm sorry, Michael. So, but yeah, and but what I love about her is that she treats me right and respectful, and we love each other immensely. But we have really good conversations, like silly conversations, but also kind of in-depth conversations. And there was a couple of things today that we were talking about, kind of triggered stuff in my brain. And I think I've spoke about this really before, in some sense. And I am rambling a bit, to be honest, because I don't really want to talk about. But I said I was going to let it be a bit more organic this season, and we'll see where it takes us. So we went to a stately home. So in the UK, we have a lot of old buildings, stately homes, basically built by the aristocracy back in the day. Basically Downton Abbey. So imagine Downton Abbey. So anyone from another country, I'm sure you've seen Downton Abbey. Think of that programme, and that's the UK in a lot of parts. And a lot of them are open up to the public now. And we went there today because they had a bit of a Christmas exhibition on, so they'd basically used the old house and they'd taken some of the normal artifacts out and they had replaced them with the Christmassy stuff. And it was a lovely day. It was a lovely day. But it was expensive. It was expensive. And I think I don't like to get too political on the show, and I don't really like to talk too much about politics and stuff like that. And I'm going to veer away from that as much as I can today. But crumbs, is it getting expensive to go out places? I mean, it was a lovely experience, don't get me wrong. Sarah loves Christmas, and I will do anything I can to make her happy. I will probably moan about it as well, because have I said it was expensive? So basically what they've done is the place is called Tatton Hall, and it's run by the local council now. I think it's a National Trust building, and they've kind of handed it over to the local council, the local governance system, if you will, to kind of caretake for it. Not really sure. No, I don't really know the ins and outs of it. It used to be a National Trust. Now, National Trust are basically like a charity who basically look after a lot of these stately homes like Downton and sites of interest and historical importance. And they have some ties to it still. I don't know the ins and outs of it. There was a guy in one of the rooms today basically saying, "Oh, who owns the building?" And this woman kept saying, "No, it's Cheshire East Council." And then you go, "Oh, who does the garden?" Cheshire East Council. And then she literally said to him, like, the whole place is run by Cheshire East Council. They do this, and this. And he went, "Oh, do they even do this?" And she was like, "Yes, everything." And he must have asked her about 6 or 7 times. She had the patience of a saint, to be fair. But they turned like basically the bottom floor of this old manor house. Each room was decorated to a different Christmas-themed story. So there was like Charles Dickens, Scrooge, there was the Nutcracker, the Snow Queen. There was lots of different ones, and it was lovely. It was really nice, and they actually put a lot of effort in. It was better than I expected it to be, but it was £15 a person, and start to finish, including walking from the car to the place, going to the toilet, queuing up for a while for a coffee we decided not to get because it was expensive from a coffee machine rather than a barista. It was £15 a person. Now, I'm not sure what that equates to in dollars. Probably somewhere in the region of $12 or so, which you might think is reasonable. You know, they've gone to the effort of decorating the place. But I thought that was quite expensive. I thought that was an expensive thing. Plus, it was a £5 to park. It was £5 to park. So we were in the place less than an hour, really, or just about an hour. And that includes getting from the car to the place, toilet stop, walking to the building. My wife's got lung issues, so she was on oxygen, so we were walking slow anyway. So I think if I'd have probably been on my own, or I'd have probably been more sprightly, let's say, because I'd have been wanting to just go and probably go get a coffee. But we went in, and in and out within an hour for £15 each, plus £5, about £35. And don't get me wrong, I know the money goes to looking after the place, and it's a beautiful place, but like the cost of living is getting out of control. It's things like that people can control a little bit. I think there's no need to charge that much to make it accessible for people, especially when you've already paid £5 to park. And I sound like I'm going on a bit of a rant, but a lot of things nowadays are, I think, excessively expensive, and I think it's getting out of hand. It's getting to the point I don't understand how people can live. And I know there's been like a cost of living crisis, but I think that it is getting to the point. Even I've been really lucky in my life. I've worked hard for my role, but I've always had like a reasonably well paid job. But I work hard for what I do. You know, I keep my nose clean. I try to do my best at work. I don't shirk off, and I put 110% into everything I do, and I try. But crumbs, the prices of things is even affecting like well-paid workers like myself, and I'm not even in the category of like, we don't really have 2 incomes into our house really, because Sarah, she gets some benefits from the government, but she doesn't have a full-time job. She works a few hours a week, so we don't really have 2 full wages in our house. So it's kind of a good thing that I'm on probably a little bit more than the average wage, and it just makes me wonder how people can cope, because today was a lovely day out, but we didn't spend anything over the odds. We were going to have a coffee there, as I say, but then it was £5.45, I think it was, for a hot chocolate, and I think you got cream and marshmallows for that, but it was out of a machine, so it was out of like just a push button machine. A fancy one, like it looked fancy. They had a few of them, and I said to Sarah, I don't really want to pay like £10.90 for a thing a machine's made. I want, if I was going to pay £10.90, I'd want someone to actually handcraft it. You know, heat the milk up themselves. You know, you're kind of paying for a service in that sense, rather than someone just pressing a button and it going into a mug and then squirting some cream on. I don't think there's any skill to that. The machine's doing it all. And there's probably a podcast in that in itself. Machines taking over. AI. And I just thought to myself, like, it's so expensive. When we did go and we did pay it, obviously we paid to go out today, and we did pay it. But it's one of them things, like, you can't boycott everything, can you? Like, I refuse to pay certain prices. Like, I've not been to many concerts that I've really wanted to see, because I think the price of concert tickets has gone really, really through the roof. Like, just recently, my friend asked me if I wanted to go see the Foo Fighters, and all he could buy was certain tickets because he wanted to take his lad, and it was £250 a ticket, and he couldn't get hold of me because I was working, and he basically said, I've bought the tickets without you, I didn't think you'd want to pay this much money, and I was like, too bloody right, I don't want to pay that much money. Like, I love the Foo Fighters, and I've seen them, it's probably the second most band, if not joint first band that I've seen the most, them and Iron Maiden, but 250 quid, come on Dave, do you know what I mean? And this is the way things are going, and I think the way, I don't have all the answers, but I think that, commerce and the way things are, and the way people spend the money as well, like, we don't really, we as the consumers have that power. We pay them prices because we think we can afford it, or it's a treat. But then when you get into the sense that you may be buying a £5 coffee every single day, I know a couple of people that buy a couple of coffees at that price every single day, or close to every single day. And I used to regularly buy takeaway coffees, even though I had a coffee machine at home, and I didn't realise how much money I was spending. And I was thinking, but that was my little treat. Like, when I was on shift work, I was on like working 3 days a week on 12-hour shifts, maybe doing a bit of overtime. And then maybe have 2 or 3 coffees, and then maybe one on my day off. So maybe in the week I'd have 4 coffees, which is quite a lot, especially when you have your own coffee machine at home. But it never really occurred to me that that was super expensive, and it was a treat, but it wasn't almost a luxury treat. It was still within the means of buying something. A few quid for a coffee, that's not too bad. But now, like, you go Starbucks, and I bought an eggnog latte. I love the eggnog lattes from Starbucks. I probably shouldn't. I don't know why. I feel like it's not the manliest drink. But I feel like they're just delicious. I can't drink a massive one now. I used to, back in the day, buy a big one. I think it's my age now. They kill me. So I buy a small one now. But the small one I had, the small eggnog latte, was £6.10. £6.10. The minimum wage in the UK at the moment is £12 something, I believe. I think. So it's half an hour's wage to buy one of them. And you may think, is that right? Is that acceptable? Is that in line with how wages have risen? Are these companies just putting the price up in line with wages? And they obviously are, because as soon as you raise prices of people's minimum wage, businesses cotton onto this, and they close that gap. They think we can make a bit more money out of people, and it's a vicious circle. This, isn't it? It's just a vicious circle. So I don't know how to solve it. But people need to. As I go back to my comment, it was people need to march and consume with their feet. Excuse me, I'm gonna have a drink because my throat's getting. I've got some Pepsi Max, funnily enough. I've got this little lid on it, actually. I need to take off it. I bought some like saver lids for Sarah. She can never drink a full can of Pepsi or any canned drink really. And I found them on. I can't even get this lid off. I found them on Amazon, and they're basically just like a silicone lid that goes over your can. Oh, that's a beautiful sound. Beautiful. Bit of cherry Pepsi Max. Yeah, they just go over your can basically. So you can. Oh. Okay. Alexa kind of chimed in. I don't know why, because she responds to the word computer, so I don't know why she's chimed in there. Yeah, so they just go over your can basically, so you can save your Pepsi or any canned beverage without going flat. Anyway, I digress. Consumerism. There, you see, look, me wanting sponsorship off Pepsi. I do love it though. Genuinely, it's the best, Michael. My brother-in-law, we have this thing about Pepsi and Diet Coke. Well, just Coke, generally, not Diet Coke. I think he agrees with me that Diet Coke's a bit crap. Anyway, yeah, I think we should march away from these stores if they're not giving us good value. my mum lives in Northern Ireland and I'm half Irish, and they're very much they still shop a lot inside shops in Northern Ireland. There is an online thing that they obviously have Amazon and stuff, but they still are very much we want to go into shops, and their little towns and villages are still quite thriving. Really, I would say. I think more than especially my local area is, and they have that in their tradition that they like to actually go in and see people. They're social. They like to go and talk to people in general, but they will vote with their feet in the sense of consumerism. So if they get bad service from somewhere, or they get bad produce, or they get bad service in a coffee shop, or the coffee shop's gone too dear, and there's a lot of competition in Northern Ireland for coffee shops and cafes and bakeries and stuff like that, and they will just boycott places. And I'm not that I'm saying that's right, but it kind of puts the fear into people and business owners to keep that ethos and want to be a good business and give your customers something. Now, I don't mind paying for quality products. I'm not saying that I think everything should be cheap, but I think when you go into the supermarket now, and even me when I bought my own house, like I was on a drastically different wage, and it probably was in line with what I was on to what I am now. Potentially, I think the consumer prices got up a lot more than wage prices, but I remember being able to go to the local shop, which is normally dearer than a main supermarket because you're paying for the convenience, and you'd be able to get like some chicken breasts and stuff for like $1.99, and you'd be able to get like 4 pints of milk for like £1, £1 for my American friends. And yeah, so you'd be able to get these things, and I think most of them things have doubled in price in 20 years, and you think to yourself, is that something that's good that it's doubled or maybe tripled? Is that something that's just natural inflation? I don't know. I don't think it's right, and maybe it's just that thing because when I used to work with people. In my previous jobs, they used to tell me, and people in my current jobs as well, they'd harp back and go, oh, when I was a lad, like I'd go out and get drunk and get a takeaway on the way home, get some food on the way home, and get a taxi, and it'd only cost me £10. And you think, wow, that's crazy, that's mad. Even for me, is growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, going out and getting drunk. It's crazy that I was like, for £10, that's crazy. So that's not a lot. That's not a lot of money. But then you look, when I was growing up, you could probably do the same for like £30 or £40, and you'd be very drunk, and you'd get a very nice takeaway, and you'd get a taxi, potentially there and back, and you think actually it's like 4 times the amount of money for the same thing. And I would say probably nowadays you're probably talking. Talking double that again, I would say at least. To go out get a takeaway. Talking a takeaway is probably £10 in itself now, depending on what you get. A taxi, you're talking £20 there and back, depending on the distance. Maybe more, £25. So you got £35 before you've even drank anything. And I would say you're going to spend probably nowadays £60 to go out. So I would say you're talking anywhere upwards of like £80 to £100 now to go on a night out, like a proper night out that I used to do. So you're talking it's 2 or 3 times what I spent, and it mind boggles me really. And maybe it's just me getting old. That's what I'm saying. Maybe it's me getting old, and all these prices that people are moaning about is just us getting older of our generation, and we're not really seeing that there is a problem. But I think there is a problem. I'm very very conflicted in this episode. I think that generally. The governments and stuff need to act, and you got Trump putting tariffs on things, and Temu coming in and undercutting people. I think I'll do an episode on Temu. I have ordered stuff off Temu, and it is reasonably good, to be fair, from what I've purchased at least anyway. But I just think that like when you look back on old school items. Compared to today, certain things seem to have increased normally, and certain things don't. And I don't know I don't know where I sit with that, to be honest. All I know that it is when you go out and you buy stuff, you think, wow, that's a lot of money. But you see the youngsters though, the youngsters just go out and spend it. They're just used to it now. They'll go out and spend their money and they don't think twice about buying a Starbucks, or it doesn't appear to be. But I suppose that's in your psyche, isn't it? It becomes a part of who you are in your generation. So in my generation, when I was growing up, Starbucks and Costa weren't really a thing. There was local coffee chains and coffee shops, but they're more like cafes. So like a traditional cafe in the UK is somewhere that would sell like breakfasts, like a kind of like a diner kind of place, I would say. Probably not as nice looking. Very homely foods and soups and bacon rolls and all this sort of stuff. And they would serve tea and coffee, and it wasn't like barista style coffee. But then you'd get the odd like little coffee shop that would sell like proper barista coffee. And it wasn't until like the advent of like Starbucks and that became a thing for the new generation. And I used to kind of avoid Starbucks and Costa all that time. I used to go to a little coffee shop in Crewe called Rimini's. It was like my Cafe Nervosa if I was Frasier. It was my little haunt. And I spent a lot of money in there, to be fair, because if I was on afternoons, I would go and have lunch there and have a coffee. But the people in there were so friendly, I got to know them, and it was just a lovely place to go. And maybe that's how the young people are now. They don't really go out drinking that much. So maybe that £100 that they would spend on alcohol, they then put into these other activities such as going and have a Starbucks and, joining the gym because they're very body conscious. And that money's shifted. So even though I feel like some things are overly priced, they don't feel it because they've never known any different, for one thing, and their priorities are different. I've spoken to a few young people who had a few graduates and apprentices in work, and they very much aren't the generation of going out and getting drunk, which is fine. Probably because it's too expensive. And the nightclub scene isn't there as it was, and the pub scene in the UK isn't there as it was when I was at college and in my early 20s. And I feel like that's kind of a shame because like you miss out on that experience, but every generation has their own experience, I suppose. And it's interesting to me that whole concept of like how time changes, how his generations shift, and like fads that happen on and off. Like the whole fad currently of 6-7, no real idea what it means. I don't really care. Let them have it. Who knows? But they've grown up in a complete digital era, which I didn't. I've adapted to digital, but I was probably one of these, as they call, is it Xennial, Generation X / Millennial, because I was born in that little time frame. Yeah, and that's probably how that's affected me, and that's probably how I see this probably consumer kind of world. And the cost of living going up, maybe that has affected me more because I've seen the reasonable cost of living, and I'm also living the rise in the cost of living. Not that I agree with it, it's just how the world is, unfortunately. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there. That was a really ramble. So I apologise, but yeah, I hope that you kind of got my flow of my thoughts and what I was actually trying to get at. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that, there's a solution to the cost of living? Do you think the government should step in? Do you think they should tax bigger companies to feed back into the system to make things better? Do you think they should be more stringent with the prices and the percentages of profits that companies are making nowadays? Because I'm pretty sure when you charge £6 for a coffee, they're making quite a lot of money on that. Yeah, let me know what you think. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching, you can watch me on YouTube now. So if you are listening, you can actually watch this episode on YouTube. Probably should have said that at the beginning. Anyway, take care of yourself. And remember, keep on prattling.
Thanks for listening to Infinite Prattle with your host, Stephen. Follow me on social networks @Infinite Prattle. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks very much.